Hi guys, your favorite mom vlogger here, talking all things family entertainment with Deal or No Deal now on SABC2 weekdays at 6:30 p.m. Umalume is trying to make it onto the show and have his life changed quick. Amandla Malume. Mama and I are the number one Mubango fans at 9 p.m. all week because the storylines stay hot. And my two little people can't wait for May when Raid the Cage kicks off with SABC2. See La Familia, keeping those family bonds strong. Until next time.
Durban is yet again ready to welcome thousands of delegates and buyers who will be attending the Africa Travel Indaba at the Durban ICC from 13th to 16th May. The Indaba, that attracts delegates from across the globe, is the continent's leading travel showpiece. Hosting events of this magnitude continues to position Durban as a business and holiday destination of choice. Durban Tourism, together with community tourism organizations and local businesses, are eager to showcase that indeed Durban has more to offer. Durban is on the move. Join us at stand DEC 1G50. Durban is Africa's leading festival and event destination according to the World Travel Awards 2023.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two grappling wizards will battle it out for the vacant welterweight title at EFC 113 as Gelson Souza and Zakir Banat fight it out for championship glory. Plus, Faiz Jacobs is out for revenge against the great Sylvester Chipumbu for number one contendership. EFC 113 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
In our top stories, 3 political parties seeks inclusion on the election ballot and rescue mission continues after George building collapse. Good morning. We start off with election-related news. The Constitutional Court is today expected to hear 3 matters in which the Independent Electoral Commission is the respondent. In a last-ditch effort, the African Congress for Transformation, the Labour Party and the African Alliance of Social Democrats will seek the intervention of the Apex Court. They allege they could not comply with the March 8th deadline due to alleged faults with the IEC's online portal. Zoleka Kodashe reports.
Prescribes that a registered party intending to contest an election must nominate candidates and submit a list or lists of those candidates for that election to the Chief Electoral Officer in the prescribed manner by a date not later than the relevant date stated in the election timetable. This date was the 8th of March, which some political parties missed. After approaching the Electoral Court, the Specialist Court emphasized that the IEC must not be placed in a situation where it has to make ad hoc decisions about political parties and candidates who have not complied with Section 27. Parties will have the burden of illustrating to the court that their non-compliance was not due to their own conduct.
KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has cautioned SAPS members to distance themselves from politics during this election period. Mkhwanazi was addressing the media on the province's state of readiness ahead of this month's national elections. The highly contested province is said to have a high number of areas identified as hotspots for political violence. Mkhwanazi says police officers' job during this election period is to protect and enforce law when necessary.
Police officers need to keep in mind that they are the hope to the community, and any negligence of their responsibility must come at a cost. In the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we want police officers who do their work willingly, just the way they applied for this calling. We are a few weeks away from the 29 May 2024 national and provincial elections. We have a mandate to create a safe and secure environment for all the inhabitants in the Republic. Police officers must never align themselves with politics. Police officers must be apolitical and neutral at all times. Police officers must and will treat all political parties equally and without favoritism.
The search for survivors in the building collapse in George is continuing this morning as the 40-hour mark since the incident has passed. Minister of Local Government in the Western Cape, Anton Bredal, says it's a race against time with 39 people still unaccounted for.
You can feel the tension on site because we know that at a stage we will need to start to lift these concrete slabs and we're getting closer to that stage. But for now we're going to walk the site, see if there's any life, and then we're going to focus to get those people out.
Chief Justice Raymond Zondo says he's confident he's leaving a rock-solid judiciary that can withstand all kinds of storms. Zondo's term is coming to an end in August this year. He was appointed to the Constitutional Court for a 12-year term starting from September 2012. Zondo elaborates.
I'm very confident that I'm leaving a judiciary that is very strong, that has very strong personal independence, that can withstand all kinds of storms that might come its way as we continue with our democracy. I'm very confident its record is known. It's a record of fearlessness. It's a record of people who work very hard. It's a record of people who are very committed to the Constitution and its values.
Yeah.
And finally, Israel has been bombing the southern Gaza Strip overnight after taking control of the key crossing point with Egypt yesterday. The upsurge in attacks comes as delegations from Israel and Hamas are due to resume negotiations through mediators in Cairo. The BBC's Yolanda Nell reports.
Israel's bombardment has been particularly intense around Rafah. Medics said that one Israeli strike overnight killed 7 members of one family. There are also concerns about food shortages after the 2 main crossing points for aid were closed. In Cairo, Egyptian, Qatari and US mediators are due to meet delegations sent by Israel and Hamas. On Monday, Israel declared that a 3-phase proposal for a ceasefire and the release of hostages approved by Hamas was unacceptable. The White House spokesman John Kirby said a revised text Hamas had since put forward suggested remaining gaps can absolutely be closed.
Recapping the top story, the Constitutional Court is today expected to hear 3 matters in which the Independent Electoral Commission is the respondent. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
The SABC Fortune Combo radio stations, which includes SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000, seek the services of a freelance graphic designer who will collaborate with cross-functional teams to create visually compelling assets that align with our receptive brand identities and resonate with our target audiences. The minimum requirements for the position are a bachelor's degree or diploma in graphic design, visual arts, or related field, 2 to 4 years proven experience as a graphic designer with a strong portfolio showcasing a range of design projects. All interested candidates should submit their CVs and portfolio of evidence to vacancy@safm.co.za. Application closed on the 26th of May 2024. For more detailed info, visit www.safm.co.za or follow us on our social media pages at SAFM Radio.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Hear that? That's the sound of deliciousness in your kitchen after watching Ready Steady Cook. You don't season the same no more. The way you chop, slay. You do it with so much flair, because you've channeled your Salt Bay. Uyashisa. Turn up the heat, off the bone with the meat. You're in your kitchen prime, always dishing on time. Need I serve more? Catch Ready Steady Cook weekdays at 7 p.m. on S3 and channel your inner 5-star chef. Channel a better you with S3.
Hello, Your Choice Online. Hi, I need you to help me make a choice. Well, with Ford, you get to make your own choices. Like on brand new Ford Ranger XL, XLT or Wildtrak Supercabs from only $7,999 per month with no deposit needed. There's a flexible deal for every Supercab at your nearest Ford dealership today. Your Ford, your choice. TNCs apply.
The Road Accident Fund will be announcing winners of the Road Safety School Competition and youth projects to be supported by the fund. In August 2023, the RAF launched a comprehensive road safety program for learners and youth. This program involved educating learners in primary school, special schools and high schools about road safety through talks, industrial theatre performances and road safety simulations. The event will be held in Durban on Friday, the 10th of May. For more information, call the RAF on 087 820 1111 or you can visit www.raf.co.za.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point. Welcome to the second hour of the show. I'm Cathy Mohlahlana. Coming up in this hour for our Citizens Corner, we continue the conversations with political parties. Today, we're joined by the ACDP's Reverend Kenneth Meshwe. He'll be with us shortly. Before we get into that, some of your WhatsApp voice notes from the open line.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Cathy, good morning, and condolences to those who are affected by the collapsing of that building. You know, it's a pity, that our country has become a lawless country. I mean, how can a foreigner come to South Africa and within a space of 5 months, he's been employed without any paperwork, whereas our people are sitting without jobs for years and years. Hi guys, serious, South Africa, we are doomed. David, I'm in Puzmasburg.
Yes, Cathy, hi. This is JCK Kaunda from Sina. Says Cathy, our heartfelt condolences to families and friends of those who perished at George building collapse. Shortcuts are compromising us gravely in South Africa. No building inspectors on site to oversee or play oversight role. If inspectors were doing their job, that thing or the building should have not collapsed. It's time, South Africa, let's do the right thing first time. Let me rest my case for now. JCK, Kaunda from Sina.
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning to you and the listeners, your producers, everyone. Just about this thing that's happening in church. You see, this is sad as it is, but this exposes a lot of things, a lot of corruption that is going on here. Because there are competent people who are sitting at home doing nothing. And then you take people who have little knowledge of the job or experience, you assign them such a big project. So I think the relevant authorities, they must come to account from every department, from the civil engineers, everyone must come to account, because this is exposing the rotten and the corruption that is happening in this place. As small as it is, but you'll be surprised by what is happening here.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
All right, 12 after 10 o'clock. We continue then our focus on this year's national elections and speaking to the parties and independent candidates. These are the individuals that are vying for your vote. Today, we're joined by the ACDP's Reverend Kenneth Meshwe. Dr. Meshwe, good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and to all your listeners. Thank you very much for having me here.
Of course, if we are to look back at 2019, a lot has changed for you over the last 5 years. You lost your wife, and condolences for that. But of course, some news recently that you're recently newly married. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I should introduce my wife now to you one day when the time permits.
No, that's fine, Reverend Meshe. I think it's just important to acknowledge it because it is something that you have spoken about publicly.
Correct.
Let's talk about your party, the African Christian Democratic Party. Your outlook over this election period, 29th of May is what, just 3 weeks away. What are you anticipating for yourselves?
Well, many surprises are ahead of us. I once heard a Kenyan journalist, I think it was in the 90s, who said, for any liberation movement that ends up in government to lose power, it takes an average of 30 years. So counting the number of years that our current government, who consists of the current government, who is in the current government, is a party that took us from 1994. And when you count the number of years, I am thinking that the Kenyan journalist is going to be proved true. There are many signs that show that many people who used to say their blood is black, green, and gold are now going to lose power, according to what has been said. And when one has been reading what the political analysts have been saying over the years, particularly the last 12 months, and you look at also the people who are asked questions on the streets, you realize that there is a shift. There is definitely a shift, and we are one of those parties that are benefiting from that shift. As we know that there are many people who come from church, who come from the background of Christianity, who have been in support of the ruling party and who have been saying, because they are our liberators, they will forever go with them. But that is changing. So ACDP is looking forward to these coming elections. We believe people that have been patient, something that characterizes South Africans. South Africans are very patient and they are very loyal, but some of them are saying their loyalty is running thin now. They are starting to ask questions about others. What are you standing for? What are you going to do differently? And so people are making considerations of which direction to take. And as I said, a number of them have come to the ACDP, and for which we are grateful. And obviously, maybe the last thing I should say on this one is that everybody should know that if you as a family have a doctor and you are suffering from whatever and there is no change, you continue coughing, you continue being sick in spite of being loyal to this doctor that has been loyal to you. You need to start saying, hey, maybe let me try somebody else because I've had this cough, this bronchitis for too long and it doesn't go. So that's what people are now saying. It's time to look around and to make a shift towards those they want to give an opportunity.
So that there is a shift likely to happen is something that you acknowledge. But if I hear you correctly, you're positioning yourself to be able to benefit from that shift, whichever way it goes. The ACDP historically is a party that is considered conservative party, largely Christian-based party. You are unapologetic about the fact that you base the principles of the party on the Bible. This, of course, automatically narrows the reach that the party might have, the constituency that you are actually appealing to. When you reflect on that and what that has meant for the party since you started contesting elections in 1994, what would you say has been the impact of that?
Well, I agree with you that we do narrow our base by taking such a position. We at the same time have to acknowledge that there are many South Africans who believe in moral integrity, and some of them are not necessarily Christian. And but the issue of loyalty has kept many from not making a shift or a move until now, that people are now starting to ask questions. So some of us that have known the thinking of loyalty that many African voters have been patient. I've been patient and saying, well, from what we have heard from people that have been in the political space before us, they say that the loyalists will not move until around this time. So now is the right time. We have been waiting patiently for this moment, and we know that the base definitely has expanded, even from those who don't call themselves Christians. There are people who just want people they can trust, whether Christian or not. Voters want people they can trust. People they think that they are not going to loot, they are not going to steal, they are not going to be corrupt. So they are willing to try and test anybody, whether Christian or not. And fortunately, when people look at our track record, they are saying those guys, we have not had scandals about them. Maybe it's time to start looking at them and to start asking questions. Why are we not giving them an opportunity? Let's give them an opportunity if we do not want to continue in this trending of corruption among leaders.
So the one thing that has happened, Reverend Mensah, especially if we're talking about parties that are convened around churches, parties that are convened around religion. We've got the ATM that started contesting elections in 2019. They managed to get 2 seats. They're confident that they'll be able to do a lot better in this election. And their existence, has taken place while the ACDP has been around. What do you think it is that would draw a voter who is specifically voting along certain religious beliefs, but would not give their vote to the ACDP and would rather give it to a new party on the block? Have you reflected at all about that?
We do. Okay, but now when you look at the Constitution, you realize that there are people who say, because I'm given the right to choose the way I want, and I'm also given the right to start a political organization, why not use this right and see what would happen? So people have choices. And so when a person chooses to go to another party that also maybe is Christian-based, we don't take offense at that. It is their right. But ultimately we know people are going to say, okay, now it's a do or die moment. Who can we think or can we trust that their integrity has been tested? And they've stood the test of time. So when it comes to these coming elections, people will be looking at a number of different issues, including among those who are Christian-based. And say, okay, we welcome them, but let's see, when the storms come, when the shakings come, who among these people show the potential of standing strong? And obviously we have done that.
The question I'm asking you, Reverend Mensah, is different to what you have answered.
Okay.
As a party, when you sit and reflect, right, because you have to think, well, are we growing, are we not growing? And what is it that might be impeding our opportunity or even level of growth? So when there's a new party that is also centered on Christian principles, Christian beliefs, and it is able to grow and to have a presence in just one cycle of election, what do you as the ACDP take back to the drawing board? What are the questions that you as a party ask yourselves about what it is that you have done that those individuals did not feel that they could come to you and would find a political home in you, but started their own thing instead?
Interestingly, the ATM that you mentioned as an example was started by a church group.
Yes.
Okay, a church group, if you look at the policies of churches, the beliefs of churches, even though we may be praying to the same God, they are different. So if it's a church group that knows that their beliefs and policies are different from where we come from as the ACDP, it makes sense for them to say, okay, let's do our thing because in any way we don't agree with their doctrine and so on. So that's what has happened even with the ATM. And the other thing, the advantage they've had money that the ACDP did not have. Okay, the issue of sponsorships, the issue of having political funders. We are not all. We don't all have equal access to such donors. Our contacts are different. Okay, one may have a contact that is within the church, and that is a wealthy business person who says, "Okay, I now want to help. My church wants to do this. People in my church want to do. I have my colleagues I can talk to, so that they can also come on board and help me as their colleague." All right. So they have the advantage of having better funders than the ACDP. So to say.
So has the doctrine has having a particular ideological view, do you think that it has limited the growth opportunity for the ACDP?
Well, the main thing that I know that has limited the growth of the ACDP is lack of funders. Now, if you count the posters around here, you realize that sometimes the whole street don't even see one ACDP posters because of funding. So other people...
Yeah, but
funding is the main thing, Cathy.
But Reverend Meshwe, you have been at this game since when?
Since 94.
Exactly, since 1994. You walk around South Africa, people know who you are. You don't even have to introduce yourself. You are a Christian-based organization. So one would believe that when it is not election time, where are you? You are in communities, feeding the poor, right? Helping the sick. You don't need posters.
I wish it was like that, Cathy.
No, but you are with the people. That's where you should... is that not part of your mandate?
But I'm with the people, but I can't be everywhere. Okay, number one, I can't be everywhere. The people that I'm with are people that have shown their loyalties already. Okay, now, we are now at a time when those loyalties are breaking. That is why we would have a better conversation after the elections.
Why are the loyalties breaking? Breaking from who? From breaking loyalties from your organization?
Of course, that is what is happening. You know,
Okay.
when people are not happy with service, I made reference to a doctor. If a family has been having this doctor for 10 years, 20 years, and yet there is a struggle with a certain disease within the family, and the family doctor does not seem to succeed, it makes sense for the father or the mother or even a child to say, let's try doctor so and so. That will be something different, okay? And so when people come to a stage when they say, hi, we have given them enough chance. We have given them enough chance. Now we want change because we don't seem to be heard when we complain. Now we want an alternative. So this is the age, this is the time when people are looking for alternatives.
What is it that you believe made the ACDP particularly appealing? Let's say if we go between the period 1994-2004, those were the good years for the party. You experienced a lot of growth. I mean, you look at the seats that you had in Parliament, some of the highest numbers you've had. And then after the 2004 elections, there's just this significant drop. I mean, you lost between 100,000 votes between 2004 and 2009. What was the shift? What do you think sent people away from the ACDP?
When we lost most members of parliament, I'm talking about members of parliament, you had a crossing the floor legislation. The law allowed people to take their votes. Okay? I have been offered money by the ruling party. My deputy president was offered money. A number of members of parliament were offered money to cross the floor. So those who were maybe who liked money more than some of us, who counted money.
Who offered you money?
Oh, obviously the ruling party.
No, who in the ruling party? The ruling party is not. The ruling parties, they're individuals. If you go to Luthuli House, all you have is an office block with a logo in the front. They're individuals. So who offered you money from the ruling party?
So are you serious? You want to know
you said you're a guy we can trust?
No, even the people that I told I will not reveal are people who do. Okay, some of them, let me tell you. Okay, it's between you and me. They will say that. Okay?
Yes, it is between you and I. Yes.
Okay, they say it's between me and you. I'm offering you this amount, please. And when I say no, it's okay, but that's between us. Okay, that's over. That's between us. Ref, that's between us. Let's not talk out of this meeting. Okay, so by so saying, they're saying maybe don't tell too much. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not telling the names and the addresses.
What are you afraid of?
No, I don't want to do that. It's just a choice I've made. I'm exercising my constitutional right.
No, and I'm trying to understand, because clearly you believe that these are people who had an interest in what? In seeing the organization close down. Why were they offering you these monies?
Okay, you know what? There are people who almost immediately after leaving the ACDP, they were given positions. Immediately. Mm-hmm. Okay, to show that there was a promise, a financial benefit. Okay, I had a PA who was offered money, who left, and the first job he got, even before he was given the job description, he was given a credit card.
Oh, so you believe that this has been the modus operandi to what? To take away from the human resource of the ACDP?
Well, that was part of it. It has happened. It's part of it. All those who have left were almost immediately given the job. Nobody was without a job for a month. Nobody, none of them.
Okay, so that, you say, explains what happens between 2004 and 2009. Okay. We're going to continue the conversation with the Reverend Kenneth Meshwe. Hopefully he'll tell us who offered him money. How much did they offer you? How much did they offer you?
I was told, Rev, if you come, we know the whole ACDP will follow you and you'll get the cabinet post. That's what I was given.
Okay. It's 10:30. It's time for the latest news headlines. We'll continue the conversation in a moment.
Thank you very much, Cathy, and a very good morning. With the news headlines, Kemudu Pima Khalemele. The death toll in the collapsed apartment building, which was under construction in George in the Western Cape, is expected to rise. The Constitutional Court has begun hearing 3 matters in which the IEC is the respondent, and the City of Joburg manager Floyd Brink will this afternoon brief the media on the progress made following a fire underneath the M1 highway bridge in Braamfontein. I'll be back with a full news update at 11.
Getting more money into your pockets has never been this simple and exciting. With SABC's new Simple Watch and Win game show, you can get more Zaga in your pockets. Catch more Zaga every weekday on SABC1 at 9 p.m. You could win your share of 50,000 Rand. All you have to do to win is give the correct answer for the day. Just dial *120 *332# to register and play. The cost is R1.50 per minute. You could win big with more Zaga. Only on SABC1.
Hey, you know what, South Africa? We're just not talking about enough.
Excuse me?
Use it liberally. Use it early. Use it with your folks.
Hey, careful, young lady.
Yes, it'll be awkward at first, but not quite as awkward as your tidy-whitey wearing father-in-law spending his golden years on your couch. Wouldn't you agree? Finances is not a dirty word. Let's start talking about it, Mzansi. Find out how at livewithconfidence.co.za. Sanlam. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer, financial services, and registered credit provider.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
The president says this advert is treasonous. Why do you believe it's wrong to show an image of our flag burning?
Firstly, in the past, we never had something called a nation, and that nation today is united in diversity through a flag. Struggles were waged, people were killed, people were jailed, just for us to have a flag that unites us in diversity. Elections must be about contestation of ideas and policies, not a desecration or to destroy national symbols, things that unite us as a people even beyond the 29th of May. We must still be united because we come from a very divided past. At least that flag is something that unites us.
Zizi Kodra, thank you very much indeed, sir, the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes, 6 to 9 a.m.
Miss South Africa 2024 entries are officially open, and if you're ready to answer the call and become Miss SA 2024, your time is now. Step into your power and embrace your future. Entries close at 6 p.m. on the 8th of May. Go to missa.co.za or download the Miss South Africa app and enter now.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We're in conversation with Reverend Kenneth Meshwe, the leader of the African Christian Democratic Party. So, Reverend Meshwe, I've heard your explanation of why you believe the party lost such significant electoral support between 2004 and 2009. And then, of course, we look at what happened between 2014, 2019. You were able to rebuild some base again, rebuild some following. What were you doing then? What do you believe drew people back to you?
One of the important things we had to do was to remind our people about the importance of not only claiming to be believing in a policy of the ACDP, but it was to remind them about the importance of consistency. What image are you creating as an individual before the public if you are not consistent? And one of the benefits of consistency is trust. If you want people to trust you, you even want your family to trust you, you have to be consistent in what you believe. Now, when a person changes every time there is a shaking, every time there is a challenge, that person does not show strength of character. So the issue of character has been highlighted, of the importance of having stickability. If you believe in a vision and you have a goal, stick until you achieve that vision. Some people are very impatient. I'm very impatient. They start something and small wins come, small challenges come, and then they throw in the towel. Now, that is one of our weaknesses, I think, as Africans. Even when you look at the percentage of dropouts, whether we run a marathon, whether we are in school, we start well, and we are many when we start, but a few, only a few, a handful, end the race. So we are trying to inculcate a culture of stickability and perseverance, stickability and persistence.
Why do you characterize it as an issue of Africans and not as a human problem? Are not all humans like that?
Well, they can be like that. I'm talking as an African. I'm talking about Africa. Okay, I'm not just talking about the color. Okay, I'm talking about in Africa. I see a lot of that, and because this is where I am, I choose to refer to what's happening where I am.
What is your value proposition for South Africa? What are you offering South Africans as the ACDP? I don't hear you talk a lot about being a government in waiting or, taking over the union buildings. It doesn't seem to be your aspiration.
Well, that will come with time. That will ultimately come. Okay. Anybody who would go into politics without thinking that such a time has to come, maybe should be advised to reconsider why he's in politics. We are not in politics just because it's a popular thing to do, it's an easy job to do. As some are saying it's an easy job to do because we just talk and talk and talk, even when you lie. But we must know that you have something you contribute, something you can contribute. And definitely the ACDP has something we can contribute. We believe that if we have a godly government, as an example, okay? You have God-fearing people leading. You are not going to have the levels of corruption you are having right now. If you have values such as respect, okay? South Africa has lost respect. You see almost every week you hear something's happening in the schools. Students are taking the teachers beating their students, okay? Respect for authority in South Africa is gone, particularly in our schools. It's gone. And ACDP obviously wants to see that back. When there is a strike and people start burning buildings and coaches and all that stuff, you realize that respect for property also is lost in South Africa. People just don't care. And ACDP is very strong at that. When we talk about respect, we say we need to restore respect for God. We need to restore, secondly, respect for self. Okay? How can I expect Cathy and people in my community to respect me when I don't respect myself? And when I have that respect for myself, then I will have to know and to be reminded that I have to respect my neighbor. I will not harm my neighbor if I have respect for them, if I care for them. We attack one another, rape one another, kill one another because we have lost respect. So the issue and the value of respect is one of the most important that the ACDP would like to see restored in society. So if you have the head of state, for example, a head of state who talks a lot about the importance of respect, saying to students, respect, 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 that is going to have an impact on the people who hear the message coming from the head of state. So one day, I would also want to be the head of state in South Africa. And I can promise you that when that happens, you will have people who know how to care for the elderly. You will know people how to care of my neighbor. You'll have people who will not be too quick to harm you because they respect you.
So what happens when you are president, Reverend Meshe? Because when we look at the South African Constitution in its current state and the Bill of Rights and some of what our law allows, it's in contradiction with what you believe in as a party. We can start with same-sex marriage. What would you do with that? We can talk about abortions that are legalized. What would you do with that?
Well, you have something called an amendment. Amendments are made all the time. So if the Constitution does not protect the lives of unborn children, then I will call for, or my party will call for, an amendment to ensure that even unborn children are protected. So amendments will be considered on issues that we believe we don't agree with.
So you don't believe that women have the right to make decisions about their own bodies. You believe that decisions about women's bodies must be made for them.
No.
That's what you're saying.
No.
That's
Cathy,
what you're saying.
Cathy, that's not what I'm saying. All right? Everybody has rights to their bodies. Everybody has rights. But how you use those rights is something that we need to talk about. All right? While you are a human being, we need to define life. When does life begin? And we need to ask the question, when women are pregnant, why do they go to the clinics regularly? To check up for what? If what they are carrying is not life, why are they going to clinics? Why do they test the heart if what is in the womb is not a human being? So what we are saying, simply we are saying, everybody has the right to live. Okay? And when obviously we come with things like this and we take people who are arguing with them to clinics and say, ask the nurses, ask the doctors, why do they want to check your heartbeat? Why? If what is in your womb is not a person. So life, everybody has the right to life, including.
Obviously, Reverend Meshe, even you know that the Constitution does not agree with you on this one. Our law does not agree with you. And as things stand, our law does not agree with you on this one.
That is why.
But it would be one of the things that you want to change.
Correct.
Okay, so on the one hand, this is quite interesting. So there was a point where the ACDP did not even support the promotion of condoms, right? You support an abstinence-only view. Is that still the case? Or has it evolved slightly?
Well, abstinence is one of the most important things that the scriptures teach us for the unmarried, and we will not disagree with scriptures. Even though everybody disagrees with us, we choose to believe the scriptures. Okay. That abstinence is the best way to go. Teach children. Now, we have many fatherless children in South Africa. And when these fatherless children grow up, they also grow up not the focus not being on building the family. The ACDP believes in the family that we believe is the cornerstone of every stable society. When you look at you listen to people speak about the challenges we're facing in South Africa, families that are collapsing, it's because there is no focus on rebuilding or building the family. It's just my rights, individual rights, and no responsibilities. Okay? The Constitution. Remember, Cathy, ACDP was the only political party that voted against the current Constitution.
Yes.
And one of the reasons for that was that rights were not balanced with responsibilities. The Bill of Rights, we believe, should have included also the Bill of Responsibilities. When you see children in Japan, for example, I saw a video the other day of children cleaning their own classroom, okay? And yet when it comes to examinations, when it comes to mathematics, for example, our children that were told, don't clean your classrooms, just focus on your studies. And you look at what's happening in the malls during school hours, you realize many of our children are not given responsibilities, which I think there must be, because the very same schools that I made an example of Japan, when you see their results, they are among the top in the world.
So, Reverend Meshwe, the majority of Christians, as per the last census conducted by Stats SA, identify as Christian when asked. So if that was the only marker or indicator, a party like the ACDP would in all likelihood be in government. But you're not. Where do you think the lack of appeal is for these majority of people who say that they're Christian, but for whatever reason do not vote for the ACDP?
Cathy, you and I need to agree that after the elections, I'll be back. Okay? We are going to, I will have evidence. Cathy, remember what I said to you about the issue of loyalty? Now, let's look at the results. Look at the shift I was talking to you about. There is a shift taking place because those with experience, those who have studied and have researched the loyalties, they are saying a liberation organization that is in power, it takes an average of 30 years, and South African elections now are the 30th with the ruling party in place. So that is going to change, and we'll have a nice discussion afterwards.
Okay. Let me start taking some callers for our conversation. I'll be taking your calls on 086 000 2032 on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. We'll take a quick break. I'm back with your questions for Reverend Kenneth Meshwe shortly.
Any person aggrieved by any political advertisement or political election broadcast that is broadcast by SAFM may lodge a complaint within 5 days from broadcast with the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA. To lodge your complaint, please contact ICASA's Compliance Department via telephone number on 012 568 3233. That's 012 568 3233. Or email broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. That's broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. Alternatively, complaintsccc@icasa.org.za. That's complaintsccc@icasa.org.za.
And we will buy 500 cars, and we will buy 500 more. Just to be the one who buys your car, will come to you and offer more. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
SABC Sport is proud to bring you the best polo match on television screens. Watch the South African national polo teams take on the best from around the world. First on the annual fixture is the eagerly awaited international battle at the Nedbank International Polo on Saturday, 11 May 2024 from 1:30 p.m. Watch live on SABC Sport as Argentina, the best of the Americas, face off with South Africa, the best of Africa. Catch the build-up, the international match, and the prize-giving ceremony on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, we continue the conversation. Reverend Kenneth Meshwe is our guest this morning. He's the leader of the ACDP. Sabata, you're in KZN. Good morning.
Morning, Cathy. How are you?
Well, thank you. Go for it.
Yes, Mr. Meshwe, speaking to Sabata. Firstly, I'll start by saying I am a Christian as well. I believe in Lord Jesus Christ. And then, first thing that the Reverend, I'd like to know from the Reverend, is his credentials insofar as the liberation struggle is concerned, because I know all the great men of the cloth, the P.S. Nodiers, the Alan Pusak, Dr. Simon Kubule, Kozam Kochope, Desmond Tutu. I know that they participated in the liberation struggle through the South African Council of Churches. Did he participate as well? Because I only know him now. So after 1940 hours, I got to know Kenneth Meshwe. And another thing is unconditional support for the state of Israel, which I also believe that is informed by the fact that he never associated with those great men of cloth that I mentioned.
Okay.
And one thing, another thing is still on that. How do you support? Does he appreciate that the state of Israel is not the same biblical Israel that he talked about in the Bible? Does he appreciate that? Does he even understand how the state of Israel was formed? What happened to the people who were there before the state was formed?
Okay.
I don't want to get too much into that because there's a lot I can say.
Sabata?
I just want him to clarify that.
Sure, let's leave it there. Percy, you're out in Limpopo. Percy, try and keep it short for me, please. Go for it.
No, thanks very much. I just wanted to speak on two issues. First would be in relation to the presenter now, that in the main, the emphasis is that the ANC would lose power in 30 years. I don't think that is correct. The ANC has occupied the church fraternity. If you look, the work of the ANC is around the church because it has got a very good relationship with the church. Almost 8 to 90% of the campaigns that we're doing were visiting churches. We're outsmarting them. They are not there. So we don't see that as a possibility that there would be those that would have some challenges and be able to leave the ruling party because of loyalty and so on. Because loyalty needs to be serviced. If you are not there to service that constituency, you think it could just happen. It may not be able to happen that way. But what I'm saying, without going into more detail on it, is that we are outsmarting them. We are there. They are not visible.
Okay,
we are
Percy.
everywhere. The second point relates to the flag, which I just want to summarize. I think there's a message
As in,
that says,
around the DA, Percy?
yes.
All right.
yes,
No,
that-
but it's not the open line, Percy. We're taking questions specifically for Reverend Meshwe. Say so. Good morning. You're in Lady Grey. I don't think I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, I'm saying so, Cathy. How are you this morning?
I'm all right. Thank you. Say so. Go for it.
Okay. With regard to Reverend utterances this morning on air, I mean, the Reverend claims to be a man of God, but he got secrets to his people, yet he's expecting us to trust him. That's where everything is ruined. I mean, how on earth can one trust a self-proclaimed Christian who can't even be transparent on national radio? I mean, why is he hiding the names of those ANC members who promised him money or even what you call cabinet position? What if the Reverend is bad-mouthing the ANC? Reverend, if you want us to believe whatever you have been preaching to us, please be transparent and tell us the names of those people you had just referred to.
All right.
Thank you.
Say so. Thanks for those questions. So we're going to pause it there with the questions. Reverend, I'm going to give you a chance to respond. Please keep your responses as short as possible. I've got plenty more questions for you.
Okay. Maybe let me start with Seiso's question. I have decided not to divulge names. Okay? If you remember, a few months ago, not years, if not years, a few years ago, the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng, said publicly that he was offered money. He turned it down. He did not divulge who offered money. And people just accepted the fact that it was his choice not to divulge money, the person who gave or promised him the money. All right? So I also have made a decision not to talk about those people on air. I didn't tell them I'm going to expose you. I didn't tell them that. And the relationship that I still have with them. Okay? They are friends. I mean, I don't even know
How could you be friends with corrupt people?
Cathy, you are also having a relationship with people you know are corrupt. When a person is corrupt, there's nobody who say, because you're corrupt, I won't talk to you. I talk to them. Even the thieves, I talk to thieves. Not about stealing, but as human beings, when I meet them, in the lifts, Cathy, I greet everybody.
Dr. Mesho, people who I know are corrupt are not my friends.
Well,
I would, on a personal level, I would not call people who are corrupt my friends.
All right. Maybe the word friend is, I should not have used the word friend, but I'm on speaking terms with them. Okay? I greet everybody. Even this morning coming here, I found people in the lift. I greet them. I shake their hands. That's just who I am. So I will not divulge their names because there is a cordial relationship that is there. I greet them as human beings. Okay, that's me. All right? Now, coming to Percy. Percy obviously has a question. Was it Percy who spoke about Israel?
Yes, yes.
Percy has to be reminded that according to scriptures, he says Israel of the Bible is not the same today. Where do you find that? Where do you find that? There is no body who has substantiated that rumor and that claim. Okay? So the Israel that we read about today, as far as I understand scriptures, is the same Israel of old. Okay? If people want to know what has happened because of their disobedience, now I'll tell something that maybe some people don't know. Because of their disobedience, God himself said to the people of Israel, you are going to be dispersed. You are going to be scattered because of your disobedience. You'll go into other nations. You are going to lose your nation. But there will come a time when I will bring you back. So that time is happening now. People are going back because that's what God said to them.
So in that perspective, then, do you believe that what is happening to the Palestinians is justified?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And obviously people should know that it pains us to see what is happening there. It pains us. But what also has to be considered, particularly now looking at the proposal that has been made now that Israel did not accept. Okay, a ceasefire proposal has been made. Hamas happy with it, Israel not happy with it. Why? Because the main issue that Israel has raised and is raising is the issue of their security. Okay, if you look at those proposals, none of them addresses the issue of security. If you have a neighbor who says, I'm going to kill you, how can you be at peace and at rest when you know that they have said, any opportunity, if I get another opportunity, I will repeat what we did.
So you don't believe that Israel is effectively, the description of Israel as an apartheid state? You don't believe that?
Well, personally, I don't believe that because I've been there. If it depends how you define apartheid. Now we have to redefine apartheid. We have to redefine because you go to Israel, you see things that South Africans were not allowed to do that are allowed by everybody else. Okay, you go the separate amenities. You don't find it there. I've not found it. Anybody who has found it must tell me where to go and where to look, because I've gone there. I searched for myself and I did not find what people say.
Dr. Reverend Mesho, let's move on to the other questions. Your struggle credentials.
I did not. Okay, now I'm a Christian. I'll speak from the Christian point of view. Okay, we struggle not against flesh and blood. The word struggle is used. So my struggle in those days when others were throwing stones was not to throw stones. But I was also involved in a struggle.
Dr. Reverend Mesho. So the struggle that you were involved in was the biblical struggle.
Correct. Because that's the book that has given me insight into life, that has guided me. So that's the struggle I was involved in.
Yeah, out of all the answers I was expecting, that was not one of them. Okay. Let's take some more questions from our listeners.
I kid, the man of God is hoodwinking us. He must tell us the names. Who offered him money? Who is it? He must say the names.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to SAFM listeners. Cathy, that's a good question, but the Rev don't want to answer. But he said we must trust him. If he can reveal the truth, how must we trust him? You can't come with something which is not full. If you said you were offered money, just say it. Who offers you money? You said we must trust you. We must try you. So who gave you the money? Just the answer. It's so and so. It's Ramaphosa or it's what. There's nothing is going to happen. You said we must trust you. How must trust you if there's something you still hide it? Thank you, Honorable Kuba, the Western Cape.
Good morning, Cathy. Yeah, I think for me, ACDP, as much as I'm a Christian, I honestly cannot connect with the part. I don't connect, honestly. So I think the good reverence there, and then he just not accepting that they are far away from communities. They don't visit all the churches. They visit only few individuals. Where are they when other political parties are going to Moria? Where are they when other political parties are busy rounding all the churches? So I think ACDP need to look introspect, actually. Thank you.
All right, Reverend Mesho, we're completely out of time. I'm going to give you just a minute to give your final responses.
Well, we introspect all the time, and there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of churches in South Africa. We visit churches. And Moria is not the only church. There are those who visit Moria, and there are those who visit churches who don't visit churches that I visit, as I don't visit some churches that they visit. So we are visiting churches. Maybe it's not all people who visit churches, but definitely the leadership of the ACDP does visit churches, and I visit churches myself. And then about this nagging question, who, I will consider, and you must underline that, I will consider giving names after the President Ramaphosa has told us how that $4 million that was sitting in the couch got on his farm. Who gave it to him? Because it was given. Okay, if he tells us who gave it to him, then I will consider answering the question.
All right. I think it's a cop-out, but we don't have any more time. Reverend Kenneth Mesho, leader of the African Christian Democratic Party. Yeah, I'm still stuck on that question of struggle, right? Anyway, you can't make some of these things up, can you? It's time for the latest news.
Cathy, a very good morning. With the top stories this hour, death toll expected to rise in the George building collapse and dozens of students arrested in the U.S. With the news, Cathy Mohlahlana. The death toll in the collapsed apartment building under construction in George in the Western Cape is expected to rise. Disaster management has confirmed that there are bodies that they can't reach at this stage. The death toll currently stands at 7 from the 36 people who have been retrieved thus far. Emergency services are still working on site. Western Cape Disaster Management Head Colin Diner.
So there's 39 still unaccounted for. We have found some bodies. We haven't recovered them yet because they're very deeply trapped, and we're still focusing on finding live ones. But we will recover them, as we move on. So it's going to be difficult. Let's be straight. That's going to be very difficult now because of the fact that we, as you say, we moved into day 3. But the focus is still there. The teams know what they're doing. They understand how these kind of collapses work.
Meanwhile, the Western Cape government says it continuously updates the families of the workers that were involved in the building collapse. Local government minister Antron Bredel says the process of identifying the victims and the survivors are also ongoing, but it is difficult.
The 16 people that's red patients, in other words, critical. We can't identify them, so we've asked the construction teams to send us people who know. So they in the operation center trying to identify people, and then we take out the families. There's private rooms. We've got social services supporting them. We've got correctional social services supporting them. We've got the churches involved.
Looking at election news now, the Labour Party has argued that the assertions made by the IEC that its online portals worked well are untrue. It argues that the IEC, by its own admission, said that only 65% of the parties managed to upload their documents by the relevant date stated in the election timetable. However, the Labour Party was unable to comply with the deadline due to what it alleges were technical glitches with the IEC's online portal. The party is seeking the urgent intervention of the Constitutional Court after the Electoral Court dismissed its application. The party's advocate, Chris Loxton.
There are frequent references to a handful or a very small minority of parties who are unable to upload the information in time. That the vast majority of those who were required to do so did so successfully. That's just untrue. 35% failure rate is not a small minority, and 65% is not a vast majority. What it indicates is that despite the glowing reports from the service provider who said their system was working well, and the argument that if some could do it, all could do it, there were significant difficulties.
The City of Joburg manager Floyd Brink will this afternoon brief the media on the progress made following a fire underneath the M1 highway bridge in Braamfontein. The fire, which occurred on Wednesday last week due to a suspected cable theft and vandalism, resulted in electricity infrastructure catching fire, leading to power outages in parts of the city centre. Monique Lewis has more.
City Power says the replacement of the burnt and stolen cables along the M1 highway bridge was expected to be completed by the end of the day yesterday. City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena says it took them 2 days to clear the rubble from the tunnel where the fire destroyed the electricity infrastructure. City manager Floyd Brink will later today give an update on the progress made thus far and will also visit the scene of the fire. Monique Lewis, SABC News, Johannesburg.
While the organizers of the violent protests in Mahikeng in the northwest remain a mystery, there's a blame game regarding who organized the action. A bus was torched in Extension 39, while a bakery truck was also set alight in Mahokwe village during Monday's protest. Local businessman Godfrey Mwekezi and social activist Tato Molusangwe accuse each other of being behind the violent protest.
The fire that was fuming was not ours. It was Tato's fire. Our kind of fires are the one that dethrone people. We normally cause fires, but this one was not ours. Our kind of fire would be the one that gets the president back here in the country from other countries.
I was watching news yesterday, and
It was reported that there were faceless people who are responsible for burning off a bus and a bakery truck. The leader of that thing is Godfather Mokitsi.
And police in the U.S. have arrested dozens of students who are setting up a pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of Massachusetts. It is the latest clampdown on protests that have taken place across the country. The top story at 11, the death toll in the collapsed apartment building under construction in George in the Western Cape is expected to rise. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Nalibito la ka ke bonolo mo atli di bantse mbark Miss B morara Miss T mo atli di the Bonnie B Bonbon, and we'll be now playing Kena on Mondays at 4:30. The day has changed but the time slot hasn't. So if you're interested in news that's happening with us kids and our peers around the world, don't forget to tune in. See you there.
The SABC Fortune Combo radio stations, which includes SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000, seek the services of a freelance graphic designer who will collaborate with cross-functional teams to create visually compelling assets that align with our receptive brand identities and resonate with our target audiences. The minimum requirements for the position are a bachelor's degree or diploma in graphic design, visual arts, or related field, 2 to 4 years proven experience as a graphic designer with a strong portfolio showcasing a range of design projects. All interested candidates should submit their CVs and portfolio of evidence to vacancy@safm.co.za. Application closed on the 26th of May 2024. For more detailed info, visit www.safm.co.za or follow us on our social media pages at SAFM Radio.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Miss South Africa 2024 entries are officially open, and if you're ready to answer the call and become Miss South Africa 2024, your time is now. Step into your power and embrace your future. Entries close at 6 p.m. on 8 May. Go to missa.co.za or download the Miss South Africa app and enter now.
Come test drive the new Ford Territory, the family SUV with a 1.8-litre EcoBoost engine that is both powerful and fuel efficient. Get yours at launch prices from only 590,000 Rand, including an optional service plan for a limited time only. Get to your nearest Ford dealer and test drive the new Ford Territory today. T&Cs apply.
Getting more money into your pockets has never been this simple and exciting. With SABC's new Simple Watch and Win game show, you can get more Zaga in your pockets. Catch more Zaga every weekday on SABC1 at 9 p.m. You could win your share of 50,000 Rand. All you have to do to win is give the correct answer for the day. Just dial *120 *332 # to register and play. The cost is R1.50 per minute. You could win big with more Zaga. Only on SABC1.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
It's 10 after 11 o'clock. Welcome to the third and final hour of the Talking Point. Unfortunately, we don't have much time in this hour to actually bring you some of the reaction you sent through to our interview with the ACDP leader, Reverend Kenneth Meshwe, but we're going to leave it there with that particular story. Let me welcome into our studios Dr. Aaron Motswaledi, the Home Affairs Minister. We're going to be talking about a number of issues that affect the department, but most importantly, I think there have been so many issues that affect and touch on home affairs that some of you as our listeners have been raising, which is really what also prompted the need to have him come to studio. Dr. Motswaledi, good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time and for making time to be in studio.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to the listeners. Thank you very much for having me.
A good place to start this morning. Of course, we are full on in election season. In just about 3 weeks' time, we'll be voting. The Home Affairs Department is integral at this time of the year too, because suddenly people notice they don't have their IDs, their issues here and there. Let's talk about what the department has been dealing with and really, I guess, also trying to make sure as many people as possible are able to vote and they have the requisite documentation.
In fact, it's not only integral, it's key, because there is absolutely nothing IEC can do without the Department of Home Affairs. The first thing is that the IEC need to compile a voters roll. And if you are not on the voters roll, you can't vote. And that voters roll is compiled on the basis of what Home Affairs gives over to the IEC in the form of National Population Register. In other words, we show IEC who is on the National Population Register and entitled to vote, who has passed on, etc., etc. So that's why I'm saying we're not just integral, we are key. Then the IEC provides the voters roll. Then from there, on the day of the voting, they definitely want your ID. That's why on the 29th, or on any of the days of the voting, Home Affairs offices will be fully opened. Even if you happen to have lost your ID the previous night, you'll still get a TIC, what you call a temporary identification certificate. IEC accept that as a means to vote, just like they accept three things actually. They accept the smart card, they accept the green barcoded ID, they accept the TIC. And all those are provided by Home Affairs and will be in full force on the day of the voting to provide for them. I was jokingly saying some of the people who will be coming are those who left their IDs with Machonyisa. And this is not a joke, it's reality. But we don't want people to be disenfranchised because they owe Machonyisa. We'll still give them TICs, temporary identification certificate, to go and vote.
You know, Minister, as you're talking about this issue of ID, so we've received a few calls from listeners who are struggling with getting ID documents, right? And it's mostly from people whose parents are both deceased. They've grown up in the country without any form of identification. Do we know how many South African nationals find themselves in that position? Because the idea of one growing up from the time of birth right through to matric and not having an ID is something that, well, it just should not exist in South Africa 30 years after democracy.
Unfortunately, it exists, Cathy. The whole issue, excuse me, I've got a bit of flu.
All right. Sorry for that, Minister. So here's what we can. Do you need me to take a break, or you okay to continue?
No, I'm okay.
All right.
I'm okay. Yes. Look, this problem called civil registration is a big problem on the continent of Africa. It's very big, to an extent where it has even been given names and descriptions. On the continent of Africa, it's very common to be born, get married, and die without it ever being recorded anywhere. The term allocated to that is a scandal of invisibility on the continent. That's why the African Union, the World Organization, and other international bodies in 2011, right here in Durban, they launched a process called CRVS, Civil Registration and Vital Statistics, for countries to carry them. So if you're asking me how many, this is the information we have got, which is an estimate from United Nations, that the country that is number one on the continent is Egypt. Its population is 98% documented, which means they still have 2% Egyptians who don't appear in any record of government. The second, in terms of performance, is South Africa. We are at 89% documented, which means we are still having 11% of people who were not documented. One of them, you have seen, and you thought maybe it's a very rare thing. It's just one of those, Thabo Bester. You are aware that he was 37 years and he was not documented anyway. When we checked, The mother also was 36 years when she got documented. I go around in villages, Cathy, since August 2022, addressing stakeholders, taking Home Affairs trucks to the villages. And I meet 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds who have never been recorded anywhere in their whole life. That is why in Home Affairs we have got a special directorate, a whole directorate dealing with that, which is called LRB. That process is called LRB, Late Registration of Birth. We named it like that because we don't say late registration of ID, we say birth, because you will never get an ID until you get a birth certificate. So it starts with birth.
Just looking at the statistic, Dr. Mzoledi, 11%, it's millions of South Africans.
Absolutely.
That are not documented.
Absolutely.
That is a crisis for our country.
I won't really call it a crisis. If you consider that some countries are still at 5%, 2%, etc. But I'll say we have put actions in place to bring this to an end. One of them you might have seen yesterday, and I'm disappointed that some of the media houses are not. We said, if this is the case, number one, I go out, and I told you I've already been going out for 2 years after knowing these statistics, to go out with trucks into the villages. We then said, let's expand the platforms along which you can get Home Affairs services so that you don't rely on Home Affairs offices only. Number one, we started opening Home Affairs offices at malls, and I'm sure you're aware, 3 malls have already been opened. Number two, banks. We have got 29 bank branches already, which are offering Home Affairs offices to try and deal with this matter. Number three, we have started opening Home Affairs offices in hospitals. We discovered after receiving these statistics 2 years ago, that Egypt is number one because they are the first country that realized the trick of opening Home Affairs offices in hospitals just to give birth certificate. We started as far back as 2020. Unfortunately, we were hit by COVID. We had to stop. Now we have started in full force, as I'm speaking. Some of the major hospitals where babies are delivered have got Home Affairs offices in them. Number four, we then said, throughout a democracy case, Home Affairs have been having 100 trucks that are sent all over the villages to make sure that they help people to take identification. And last year we bought 20 trucks. Then we got 120, and we thought we need to increase them more and more. Yesterday, the president in Mokopane was unveiling 100 such new trucks, which we are going to distribute all over. And the more rural an area is, the more trucks they'll get.
So
then number five, let me finish.
Sure, okay.
The president also unveiled a prototype of what you call a kiosk, which is under construction. At the moment, we are starting with 91, but he unveiled a prototype. That prototype called a kiosk, it works like an ATM. Where you distribute it, people can go and print their own IDs, marriage certificates, death certificates, or even apply for a passport or an ID without there being a Home Affairs official at all. You just go there just like you go and take money at the ATM. The only rider is that it has to be somebody who has been in Home Affairs before, whose photo we have got, whose fingerprint. The new ones still have to go to offices. All those things, Cathy, which I've mentioned now, are being done to try and solve this problem that we have mentioned.
So one of the reasons why I describe it as a crisis, Dr. Mzoledi, is because these then become millions of South Africans who are unable to access basic services from government. By that, I mean, if you look at the demographic where you're sending out these trucks to, it's mostly your rural, peri-rural areas, right? And largely what would be described as disadvantaged areas. And so the people in those areas would also be the ones that need access to social security through SASSA and the Department of Social Development. They would be the same ones that would need to access services from your NSFAS and other associated departments. So for me, hearing that statistic and balancing it off what listeners are telling us their issues are makes a lot of sense, because often the problem comes in with documentation. And when they're sent back, from all of these departments to get their papers in order, it all stops with Home Affairs. Now, what are you doing to ensure that the turnaround time of these individuals, of these processes, is one that will be quite efficient?
Cathy, actually, it might be the other way around, because it's a problem of development. Many people don't come to take IDs because they don't believe they've got any use for them. When they discover a use, like after the 350 social relief grant, they come in large numbers. We used to have Home Affairs full to capacity because people now see a need for an ID and they now come. At any one time, we just solved it in the past 3 weeks. You'll find 500,000 IDs which are uncollected in Home Affairs offices around the whole country. Members of Parliament even said, no, we must distribute them to their constituency office to distribute, and we refused. Over the past 3 weeks, we've been opening Home Affairs offices every Saturday just for collection, and 30,000 IDs were collected at that time. Now, why am I saying it's the other way around? I'm saying it's because on our continent, because of problems of development, many people might not find there's a need for an ID until they need it. So those who want to go for SASSA, etc., they come immediately. Actually, SASSA, we have directly linked them to the National Population Register. They don't even have to talk to us, just like the banks all over the country are directly linked to the National Population Register. When you go and they serve you, they just press and your whole file comes in. If there's a problem, they can't.
I'm talking about those that aren't registered, Minister.
I'm coming there.
Okay, sure.
Now, you told us about the turnaround time. Cathy, if you apply for your ID in Home Affairs, it takes 13 days, at least 2 weeks, for us to finalize it. Even a passport, it takes 13 days to 2 weeks. Remember, it used to take 6 months at some stage. We have now modernized, it takes 13 days for you to get your ID. Now, the people are talking about who are phoning are people who have got complex cases that sometimes need social workers, that sometimes need even DNA. This whole process we call LRA, Cathy, it's not a simple process. Not for us, not even for the client, the late registration of birth. That's why we are encouraging, and that's why we went to hospitals, that please, our policy say, please, take your birth certificate within 30 days of birth. Within 30 days of arriving in this world, make sure that you are registered. Then it will avoid problems. If you are not registered, on the 31st day, the LRA start, and it's a tedious process. If it's after 1 year, it's even worse. Let me give you an example about Bester. When he just appears here and say, I'm Thabo Bester, and he's 37 years old, who do you link with? Where did he originate? Who is he? Where did he come from? While we're still answering those questions, fortunately, a lady appeared on TV and say, I'm the mother of Thabo Bester. I gave birth to him at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. We actually sent a team there. They spent 5 hours in the labor ward of Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, and they indeed found that it was true. She even told us the school where he attended in the south of Joburg. We send people there. We do that all the time, sending people to hospital to search. Some of them, it becomes very difficult. We ask them the schools that they've ever attended, the churches that they've ever attended, the churches that they've ever attended. We go to the royal family, we go to the ward councillor. All of them must write affidavits. We go to social workers. Now, those cases take a little bit longer because we can't just give an ID to anybody.
I'm going to, because of the number of calls that we have coming in at this hour, I think what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to start taking our callers, because people have different things that they really want to engage with you about. Let me kick it off with Busisiwe. Busisiwe, you're in Kempton Park. Good morning.
Morning, Cathy. How are you?
Well, thank you. Go for it, Busisiwe.
I just want to ask Minister Mohlahlana. I have two brothers. The other one is more than 50 years, and then the other one is approximately 42. I'm not definitely sure. That one have never had an ID. Even the birth certificate he doesn't have. But the last week, he tried to go to Mamelodi Home Affairs. He's having my father's death certificate and the ID copy, and my mother is still alive. We have my mother's ID, and then a letter from school where he attended. He quit school when he was doing standard 3. Yeah. Then, so he never had any ID. So at Mamelodi Home Affairs, they said no, because he is at this school, and letter from the Nkosini is from under Dr. J.S. Moroka. So he must go there to get the ID there. And the other one, when he's trying to apply for the ID, he doesn't have fingerprints anymore. He worked with he's a builder, so they keep on saying that he worked too much with the cement, and then he doesn't have a fingerprint, and we all don't know his exact date of birth.
Sure.
So I don't know how can he get the help with that one.
Busisiwe, those sound like very complex cases. Dr. Mohlahlana?
Unfortunately, this one is not very complex. Casey, we do get more complex cases than this. Firstly, let me start with the fingerprint one. There are lots of South Africans who don't have fingerprints, and we have got a way of solving it. Some of them, yes, because of construction. Others have had amputations, yes, and all that. So not everybody has got a fingerprint, and we have got a way of solving it. Why I'm saying this case she's mentioning is not very complex. As she was speaking, she has already given me what are the requirements for an LRB. This is an LRB case, late registration of birth. She has already given them requirements. Firstly, they've got the death certificate of the father. Secondly, the mother is still alive. So all we need to do is to get into the records of these particular parents they are mentioning, and then see what you can do. And thirdly, she say he attended school and left at standard 3. Well, some of the schools do not necessarily keep records, as you know, Katie. Yes, but we are going to have to go to that school. But as I'm looking at it, it's a late registration of birth that can be done. And I don't understand this story that he must go to J.S. Moroka. It's not true. Any Home Affairs office ought to help this person. So for that reason, I will ask for the number, and we'll help this person and start an LRB process, and I think we'll complete it in time.
All right.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to ask you just to hold it there. It is 11:30, so we're going to take the latest news headlines. We're back with the Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. Like I said, I see all of the calls that are coming through, quite a lot, in fact. So we'll give the rest of the time really for you to engage with the Minister. It's 11:30.
Thanks, Cathy. A very good morning. With the news headlines, The death toll in the collapsed apartment building under construction in George in the Western Cape is expected to rise. City Power says power could be restored today to Parktown West and Braamfontein, which are among the areas affected by the M1 highway bridge fire. And Israel says it has opened one of the main crossing points into Gaza days after a Hamas rocket attack. Details of these and other stories at midday.
In the heart of Africa, where our ancestor spirits echo through the ages, lies a legacy as rich as the soil beneath our feet. the land of our forefathers, which holds the key to our future. For years, the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania has led the fight for justice, equality and self-determination. We've been relentless advocates for the people of Africa. As we face a new era, the PAC stays true to our founding principles. We protect our land, preserve our heritage and shape our future. Let's create a future where every African child can grow with pride, dignity and hope. Together, let's write the next chapter. It's our land, our legacy, our future. Vote PAC.
This political election broadcast was brought to you in terms of the CASA regulation governing the election period. The views expressed in this political election broadcast are those of the political party and not of the SABC. Getting more money into your pockets has never been this simple and exciting. With SABC's new Simple Watch and Win game show, you can get more Zaga in your pockets. Catch more Zaga every weekday on SABC 1 at 9 p.m. You could win your share of 50,000 Rand. All you have to do to win is give the correct answer for the day. Just dial *120 *332# to register and play. The cost is R1.50 per minute. You could win big with more Zaga, only on SABC 1.
Come test drive the new Ford Territory, the family SUV with a 1.8-litre EcoBoost engine that is both powerful and fuel efficient. Get yours at launch prices from only 590,000 Rand, including an optional service plan for a limited time only. Get to your nearest Ford dealer and test drive the new Ford Territory today. T&Cs apply.
The Road Accident Fund will be announcing winners of the Road Safety School Competition and youth projects to be supported by the fund. In August 2023, the RAF launched a comprehensive road safety program for learners and youth. This program involved educating learners in primary schools, special schools and high schools about road safety through talks, industrial theatre performances and road safety simulations. The event will be held in Durban on Friday the 10th of May. For more information, visit www.raf.co.za.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Good morning, Cathy, and to our minister. Cathy, I'm not going to vote. I don't have a ID. I do my ID, the card one, because I was using the green one. Just suddenly after 3 months, I lost. Now I don't have the money to do a new ID because I must pay now. What advice minister can give me? Because I'm not going to vote because I don't have an ID. And I'm struggling because now sometimes I'm using license on bank. I'm using license, but I don't have an ID. What advice a minister can give me so that I can go and vote? Please answer me. I'm in Cape Town. Thank you, Katie.
Morning, Cathy. Morning, and morning, the minister there. Cathy, my problem is I've changed my surname, and then everything approved that I've changed, but I'm still holding my old surname. And then right now where I am, I can't even go to Home Affairs to go and vote. So I was asking if it's possible to go and vote with my old ID, because I know the ID number is the same. Then I just want to know if it's possible if I go with the same ID number with a different surname, because I'm in my card it says the old surname, and then at Home Affairs when I check if I'm good to register, then it shows the another surname that I changed to. So I want to know that.
Morning, Cathy. This is Zanele in Durban. I'm glad Minister is in the studio. Cathy, I wish Minister, I don't know how he can help to or remove that red tape that make it difficult for children that are abandoned by their mother to their father. When it comes to the father to apply for the birth certificate for that child. Remember, Cathy, I called you a month ago about that Mangoba even now, he didn't get help on getting the certificate for her daughter, simply because he can't afford the DNA test as he is unemployed. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for some of those questions that have come through. Our guest is the Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. Dr. Motsoaledi, I'm going to ask you to keep your responses as short as possible. We've got quite a number of callers still on the line. Go for it.
Well, the first one has lost ID. Unfortunately, Cathy, the first ID we issue is free. Any 16-year-old who come to fetch an ID is free. But once you lose it, you have to pay. You can imagine if we make it free, what will happen with our budget, because people will just, lose their IDs every day and not take care of them. So unfortunately, that's why it is. Now, if a person feels that they've got social problems that make them not able to get IDs because they are poor, it means they are indigent, and we advise them to go to the Department of Social Development. Let them deal with the manner in which they deal with indigent people who can't get services. In Home Affairs, if we start saying everybody who's indigent, come and get this document free, believe you me, will collapse within the first month. The second one, change surname. When you change your surname, you don't change your ID number. You keep the same ID number. In fact, we have got a directorate called amendments and rectifications, because people change their names all the time, not just because of marriage, but for various reasons, and that directorate does help them. Now, I don't know what the problem is with this particular individual, because he says he can't vote. He will vote depending on registration. Remember, registration period is already over. What did he register with? In what voting station? With what surname? Because the ID is the same. Then he can vote with the same thing. But because he has got problems, let's also get his phone number and try to help him. But I don't see why he should not vote just because he changed his surname. Then the last one, to remove red tape so that kids abandoned by their mothers can have their fathers registering them. Actually, there is a court judgment that already said so, that fathers can register their kids without mothers. So it's a court judgment already. It's case law. Our problem in Home Affairs is, how then do we prove that this person is the father? Because in hospitals where we have got Home Affairs offices, we can see the mother delivering this baby and registering the baby. There's no problem. Fathers are never there. Any man who appears and say, I'm the father of this child, why should we take that? Because if we do, Cathy, there will be hire a father. Corruption. There will be a father syndicate where South African men come and avail themselves as hired fathers and they get paid. So the court has left us with this problem, and that's why we even start resorting to DNAs. And of course, DNA is a very expensive test. We've been negotiating with the Department of Health, because we don't do DNA, by the way. It's the Department of Health, whether they can give free DNA to indigent people, and they've been dealing with the matter for the length of time. We are just hoping that maybe when NHI come into being, this is where our problems will be over. But on us in Home Affairs, we've got to identify you.
Okay.
Because we can't just give you an ID simply because you need it. We know you need it, but we ought to know who you are, whether we are giving the ID to the correct person.
All right. Reality, you're calling us from Nelspruit. Good morning.
How are you?
Go for it, Reality.
All right, okay. I've got a question with the minister. The Department of Home Affairs blocked my ID. Then the reason they blocked it, they said it's NPR. So then 2021, during COVID-19, I went there to apply to submit all my documents. Then they said they are still doing the investigation. 2021.
It's blocked because of what?
They said NPR.
They said they are blocking because of NPR.
Yes.
NPR means National Population Register. What about it?
That is the reason that they placed there, because the immigrant officer showed me.
Okay, fine.
All right. Okay. So then, even now, here's a view called I and my mothers and my father to go there to interview us. They did the interview, and Even now, nothing has been happened. There is no progress. It is still blocked. And even at school, I can't finish my studies because of it.
Reality, what do you suspect the problem may have been after speaking to officials? How have they explained what the problem is to you?
They said that when they send my document at Department of Home Affairs Pretoria, they said they do receive my document, but they don't respond. So then the officer told me that he has to drive to go to Pretoria and tell them to release my ID. But even now, there is nothing that is happening.
Okay,
I've
Minister?
got all my documents.
Yeah, Cathy, you may remember that this issue of blocking IDs is already from court. It was a big story a few months ago this year. Home Affairs officials do what they call blocking or taking of IDs. If they look at your ID and they find something suspicious about it, either that it was fraudulently obtained or there's something that doesn't match or doesn't make sense, they tag it or block it. The problem from which I've been fighting Home Affairs officials is that there's no law in any statutes in the country that empowers Home Affairs officials to block IDs. So I informed them to unblock them. And at that time when I did so, there were 2.5 million IDs which are either blocked or tagged. And so they started unblocking them because I said, because we don't have any law, it might be in good faith, but because there's no law, we might be found foul if the matter goes to court. They unblocked 1.8. The remaining 700,000 were very problematic. And we tried to negotiate with lawyers of human rights who took us to court. Even the banks, Cathy, wrote an affidavit to support us. They said, if this 700,000 just get unblocked without any investigation, there's a high chance that all the banks in South Africa may jointly lose 17 billion, not million, billion rand. And they submitted this to court. The judgment was then that, look, because there's no law that allows you, but we realized that blocking serves a legitimate government process, we are asking Home Affairs to follow PAJA. In other ways, a fair administrative promotion of fair administrative action. The judge said, please follow PAJA. On this 700, we are giving you 12 months. We ask only for 90 days and say for this 700, we are scared about even what the banks are telling us. Please give us 90 days to investigate. The judge was very generous. He said, I'm giving you 12 months. Go and investigate and unblock them. If there is one which you realize you really cannot block, apply to court, come and inform us in court and give us the good reasons why this one cannot be blocked. So it is a process that we are busy with in unblocking this 700 after ascertaining which ones are they.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So reality, it sounds like your matter could well fall under that particular group of individuals.
Well, he can still bring it to us. He can still bring it to us now. Take his number. It might be that is something very easy, but I'm just giving you the whole picture.
Okay.
That his case is not something that is out of, this world. There are many more people who have got similar problems.
Khotso, you're in Vicksburg. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you, ma'am?
I'm all right. How are you, sir? Go for it.
I'm good. Okay, thanks. Hello, Doctor.
Yes.
How are you, Dr.
I'm okay, and you?
I'm okay, Dad. I've got a niece that her mother is a Lesotho citizen and her father is South African. But I want her, she's supposed to get an ID because her father is South African. So she can't even go to school here in South Africa. What can I do for her? Because the father always promises that you will make tests, the DNA test, but it doesn't look like the father is ready to do that. What can I do, sir?
Cathy?
Hello? Yes, go ahead, Minister.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, no. I think here, well, let me explain the easiest part of this. The system we are using, which is used in most of Europe, most of Asia, and many other countries. It's called jus sanguinis, meaning the right of blood. It means if any of one of your parents is South African, then you are a South African. Doesn't matter where your mother is from. It doesn't even matter where you were born. If we can prove that one of your parents is South African, then you are a South African. So this particular child is a South African by virtue of the father. From the way I'm listening, it looks like they are not able to prove this fatherhood. Because, Cathy, you see, our birth certificate in hospital, even in hospital that are issuing birth certificate, we still experience this problem. A birth certificate is supposed to have 3 people: the child, the mother, and the father. And it doesn't matter whether you are married or not, as long as you are the father. As you know, socially, most of these men disappear. They just run away, and they are nowhere to be found. I personally have been in hospitals where a young girl remember they get the certificate same time. When they leave the labor ward, they go home with the certificate. And I look at it and said, but it's not complete. Where is the third person? And you can see from their smiles that there is some complication here. And you don't trouble them. They are going to appear 10 years later with all these complications. And that's where DNAs are needed. Now, the last thing I want to mention in this case, there are parents who just outright refuse to go to Home Affairs, help their children to get IDs. That's why we've even changed the law. We no longer want the parent. We say an adult informant. Any adult who is a relative who can inform, under whose file this child will come in. I will give you an example, Cathy.
So, sorry, Minister. So, Khotso, in terms of your matter, who has come forward to support the case, just for purposes of being able to say that this is the relative, these are the relatives, and to fulfill the criteria that Home Affairs needs?
The mother is helping the child, and the father is in South Africa, and he is married to another woman. But it looks like maybe he's scared that his marriage might not go well if he associates himself with the child.
So can the South African relatives of this child, would they be any role that they can play from a DNA perspective, Minister? I don't know.
Yeah, let me try to explain. These are complex social problems which I've been talking about. I want to give you an example. 3 years ago, I went to El Dorado Park with mobile trucks to help people take IDs. I found a 14-year-old boy who's a soccer star at 14. Some good Samaritan who likes sport found a way to take him to the US for further training so that they groom him, you know. And then he needed a passport. The mother was around and alive, refusing to go to Home Affairs to help him take a passport. And the kid was crying. So when I arrived in El Dorado Park, I put together a team of police and Home Affairs officials. I said, usually this type of... They said the mother is always drunk. He's always in a shebeen. I said, usually they know which shebeens this type of people use. And they went around to search for her. They found her. And they brought her in. And the boy was smiling. I was also happy that we had solved the problem. He stood on the queue because there was already a queue. Just when we looked to one side, she disappeared. She was gone. And the child started crying again because the time of going to America was advancing. So what we do, that's why we rely on social workers. They are trained for this type of thing. And usually in Home Affairs, when social workers write us a letter and say, this is the investigation we have done, this is what we found, and this is our conclusion, please give this child an ID. We do so. Sometimes we even resort to the Children's Court, that the Children's Court must help us to solve this case. Now, if you listen to this case of Lesotho and South African, this man seems to have made a child somewhere. He's married, and I think he's hiding it from his own wife, you know. So social workers don't have to expose him, but if they can make sure he gives them proof that he's a father, and they write us a letter, it comes to Home Affairs, we will help this child because we can't punish this child on the basis of issues that happen to their parents.
So basically, Khotso, have you been working with a social worker at all?
No, I've never gone to the social workers, unfortunately.
Okay.
She must go. And Cathy, let me add, the area around Fixburg, the areas next to the towns in South Africa next to Lesotho border, most of them have got these problems. Because, sometimes, those who are even in the Fixburg municipality, they pimp each other. And I told them to stop it because these people are next to each other in the border. I mean, if you look, for instance...
What do you mean they pimp each other, Minister?
They report.
Oh,
they say,
okay.
this councillor is not a South African. I know them, he's from Lesotho. and please get rid of them. We even have such a case which is going to court. And I told them, stop doing it. Because you are going to find that most of you are related anyway. Because of proximity. I mean, look at the town like Lady Brand. It's just 11 kilometers from Maseru. And many pregnant women cross in and come for antenatal care. So I said, people living in that area, they need to be very careful when they start fighting each other about who's a South African and who's not. But we are concentrating on such areas to help them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Khotso, I think you've gotten then the advice from the minister.
That means I have to go to the social worker.
Yes.
They must deal with this issue of this father, this absent father, who is scared of having his family broken down. Because it's possible that the mother doesn't know anything about that child, I suspect.
Okay.
That's why he's hiding. So social workers will see how they maneuver through it, but also take his number.
Okay.
Sometimes social workers believe this is not their job and send it back. We need to help him.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to Kwakwa. Dilaya, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy.
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, Dr. Mswene.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm calling from Kwakwa in Potachal, Free State. Yeah, Kwakwa in Potachal.
Go ahead, Dilaya.
Yeah, I've got a problem. My mother, she was a South African. She went to Zambia and then she came back in 1994. I was staying with her in Zambia. So when she came in 1994, I came with her. Now, we've been having a problem. They've been having a problem. This Home Affairs have been giving us a problem to give us ID. On the 20th of August, I'll be making 30 years to stay in South Africa. We applied Home Affairs here in Potachava. They made us run up and down. I was even arrested. When I arrested, my mother even confronted me and said, look, this child that you're arresting, he's my child. Why are you deporting? Why can't you just help him issue an ID? They promised us. They said, no, let him go to Zambia, and when he comes back, you're gonna issue an ID. I went to Zambia. When I came back, we applied. There was a manager who was running that Home Affairs who entertained me Korata. He's one who messed up. I think he's one who messed up everything. When we apply, you tell us, no, we have to wait for 6 months for them to finalize everything. 6 months lapses again, he would come up with another story. Until one time, there was a lady who was working for Home Affairs because now everyone knew my mother there because my father, my grandmother, and my grandfather are well known here in Potachava. Then she confronted my mother and says, Mama say, how? These people, whenever you apply, he put them in the house. My mother, she went to confront this Ntatenico. So Ntatenico, why have you been doing this? If you can't do it, why can't you just be open with us? Then he started dodging all those things. You know, we even went to Bethlehem. We tried. Nothing materialized.
Okay.
And then they even went us to do the DNA test. We did the DNA test in Fontaine. Now, the new manager was there. When we did the DNA test, they said they wanted to prove that my mother, she was a South African, and my father. We did those things. When I'm about to get to submit those things, he's telling me he wants a passport. But now, what's surprising, because when we went there, I went with my aunties. They interviewed my auntie to know what has been going on, because some people came from Bloemfontein. They were interviewing my auntie concerning what is happening with us. So they explained this. Even the person from Bloemfontein said, but it has been unfair for almost 30 years.
Dilaya, let me give the minister an opportunity to respond, because there's still a few more callers I want to put on. But I think you've given us the gist of the story.
I really don't understand the story, Cathy. In terms of our principle of jus sanguinis, the right of blood, he said his mother is a South African who went to Zambia. Yes. It doesn't matter where she goes to or where he's born or all that. He is a South African by virtue of the mother. And he must be given ID. So take his number again and see. I suspect there is something more which is not being said here. Because, Cathy, let me give you an example. You know that there are many people who went to exile from South Africa. They gave birth to children there. And some of them, for 30 years, they've been living in exile. When they came back to South Africa, all of them have been given South African IDs because their parents are South African. If you understand what I mean. Even those whose mothers belong to those countries, when their fathers came back to them, we give them IDs because of the right of blood. That's the system that we are using.
I want to bring in Nwatu. Nwatu, you're calling from Polokwane. Good morning.
Hi, morning, Cathy. Mine is not a question, just a comment. I have got a feeling that this thing, obviously, we will feel like maybe the minister in the department, they must relax a little bit of these laws so that South Africans who are not documented, they can be documented. But I just want to caution everyone to say, just that when we discuss these things, we discuss them separately. But if we were discussing this thing together with the problem that we have of foreigners who are undocumented and those who want to come to the South Africa, you'll realize that we have to keep the laws the way they are. We must not relax them. Otherwise, we will have the whole Zimbabweans as being South Africans. Thank you.
Okay, all right. That's just a comment from Nwatu. I've got more questions for you, Minister.
Yes.
Hello, SAFM. I'm anonymous here in Quebec. I just need to find out from the good minister there. I'm one of those guys that hold ZEP permits. Last year already, I think we applied for the waivers. Last year, I think around January or so, we applied for the waivers. But up until now, we have not had any outcome. Nothing, no communication whatsoever. Even if you phone the Home Affairs, they are just sent from pillar to post. So I don't know. I just want to find out what is their plan. Please, can you please enlighten us, Mr. Minister?
Okay, ma'am. Will you please just tell the minister there to go and check Pantown Home Affairs there? There is a big problem there. To get inside there, you need to bribe an official there to get inside. We have to bribe a security guard there to get inside. 200 rand. Even when you're coming to collect your ID there, you have to pay. Without paying, you don't get an ID there. I'm telling you. It has happened to me. And I'm not here because we are not working, we don't have money. So it's not good, actually. This thing is inhuman.
All right. So you heard that question then?
Oh, yes. Cathy, anonymous, ZEP, there are 80,000 of them who have applied. And all of them must be considered by me. This waivers is talking about is 80,000 applications. And
how many have you considered so far?
Up to so far at the last count, but I counted a long time ago. I've already signed off about close to 20,000. So it's still a process that is going on. They just have to be patient. That's why you remember, we then issued the directive that we are extending it up to the 25th of December, 2025, if you remember. We're doing it because in the beginning they were not applying because Helen Suzman Foundation have told them this thing is going to be thrown out in court, don't apply. But now, and some did not believe that will consider them when they apply. When they realized the applications started coming, that's why we have got 80,000. About 20,000 have been signed out and the letters are out. But we'll deal with the issue. I even asked IT people to help us see if we can use some form of digitization to deal with this problem. But we are dealing with it.
And corruption at Pinetown?
Yes. Now, I forgot that this person was a voice. That's why I asked. You don't pay for services that are free.
But people
honestly.
Need documents, Minister.
Yes, but you don't pay for services free if you know Cathy, because you are also worrying me. You are really worrying me. If you are going to encourage that.
I'm not encouraging it. I'm saying that if people go to Home Affairs offices, they're told the only way you can get this document is to pay. What are the options that they're being left with?
No, they come and report to us. They come. If you start paying a bribe and everybody start paying bribe because you need services, this country will collapse. You shouldn't. We know about the problem in Pinetown office. We actually want to change it. We have asked Public Works to look for a better office because it also depends on where the office is situated and what are the facilities.
All right.
But 2 weeks ago, we've opened a brand new office just next to Pine Town at the Pavilion Mall, where there will be no corruption and people can go there.
We're completely out of time, Minister. That's why we'll leave it for today with the talking point.
It's just after 12 o'clock, Wednesday, the 8th of May 2024. A very warm welcome to Update at Noon here on SAFM, leading the conversation. Good afternoon. My name is Bongi Wazwane, standing in for Sakina Kamwendo, coming up this hour.
You can feel the tension on site because we know that at the stage we will need to start to lift these concrete slabs and we're getting closer to that stage. But for now we're going to walk the site, see if there's any life, and then we're going to focus to get those people out.
It's a race against time as rescuers in the recovery of the trapped construction workers in George continue to work around the clock, and
the Labour Party committed significant resources for a period of 2 days where the Commission's case says it could easily be done within one.
Three political parties, the Labour Party, ACT and AASD, are taking the IEC to the Corn Court in a bid to challenge the exclusion from contesting in May. And John has your sport.
Can Germany dominate the Champions League, and Sundowns begin their victory parade around the country?
You can send us your comments. These and more stories coming up in today's edition of the show. First, though, the latest news. Mudupi Makhalimele is standing by.
Thank you very much, Sister Bongi. The top stories this hour: the George death toll expected to rise and power to be restored to Braamfontein today. A very good afternoon. The death toll in the collapsed apartment building under construction in George in the Western Cape is expected to rise. Disaster management has confirmed that there are bodies that they cannot get to at this stage. The death toll currently stands at 7 from the 36 people who have been retrieved thus far. Emergency services are still working on site. Western Cape Disaster Management Head Colin Diner.
So there's 39 still unaccounted for. We have found some bodies. We haven't recovered them yet because they're very deeply trapped, and we're still focusing on finding live ones. But we will recover them, as we move on. So it's going to be difficult. Let's be straight. That's going to be very difficult now because of the fact that as you say, we've moved into day 3. But the focus is still there. The teams know what they're doing. They understand how these kind of collapses work.
Looking at election news now, the Constitutional Court has probed the Labour Party on why it waited until the IEC's deadline to upload its candidate list. The party alleges that it was unable to comply with the March 8th deadline due to alleged technical glitches with the IEC's online portal. It seeks relief in the form of a postponement of the May 29th elections. The party argues that its disqualification and the disqualification of other parties that were unable to submit their documents would prejudice the parties. Justice Stephen Majid asked the Labour Party's counsel the following questions.
Here we have a party duly registered, serious about contesting what the media tells us is going to be the most significant election since 1994. It waits until the 8th of March, the very last day, to start getting its ducks in a row. How does it do it? It chooses the most inefficient